It is Tuesday, September 29th, 2015. I am Dan Rubin. Happy to be joined again this Tuesday by Duane Long. Duane, you ready to roll?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Going to talk a little bit today about how the team has played so far, the end of the non-conference schedule. We're going to look at offensive and defensive MVPs, biggest surprises on offense and defense, talk about what we think our Final Four is going to be. First, we want to put to bed the Western Michigan game. Kind of an interesting discussion going on the boards. Raekwon McMillan. I was at the game. I had the chance to kind of watch him a lot. He was put in a position to make a lot of tackles. It's interesting, Duane. Some people think he had a good game. Some people think he had a bad game. There's really no in-between. How did you see it for the young middle linebacker?
I give him a B- on the game. He did make a lot of tackles, but there were the ones that didn't happen, and, they stand out. You look at what he was, 16 tackles. That's a lot of tackles, but he had a lot of opportunity for tackles. He should have had well over 20, and if he did, he would have been Big Ten Player of the Week, or Defensive Player of the Week at least. He had some tough moments. We don't have two elite tackles. We got one elite tackle and one guy that's in there just working hard, and that should have been where they were running the ball. He should have cleaned all that up, and he didn't. When you run straight up the gut for that much yardage, you're going to look at the middle linebacker and say, okay, they did some good blocking up front. You're supposed to clean that up, and you didn't. So I think that you have to go back to, there's too much emphasis right now on what he did wrong, but you also can't ignore it. He did not get some things done, and there were too many tackles down the field. I remember the first time I realized I understood evaluating talent was when I saw all this talk about Percy Snow. And I said, Percy Snow makes a lot of tackles, but after 5 yards he makes a lot of tackles. I don't see where he's helping his team out. And what he was a bust as a pro. I wasn't surprised at that. Making tackles down the field, I don't care how many you have. You can have 100. If they're 10 yards off the ball, you haven't had a real good game. So I think that, the focus on the ones he did wrong, they're going to clean that up. He's only a sophomore. This was his fourth start, and I think we need to account for that. He's going to learn more. He's going to figure it out. I don't think that we have to come away with this with an absolutely negative view. What are we going to do? Let's not go there. That's way too dire. I'm just saying he needs to clean up some things. He needs to be a guy that's what a middle linebacker does. He plugs that hole. So overall, I'm fine with McMillan, but he's got some work to do.
For those born after 1976, Percy Snow was a middle linebacker from Michigan State. I believe he's from Canton, Ohio. His younger brother, Eric Snow, the point guard at Michigan State, who went on to play for the Sixers forever and now works for the NBA. So there you have that. You can Google it, kids. My feeling on McMillan is I think we have to be somewhat realistic. It looked to me schematically like he was asked to make a lot of those tackles. I thought Adolphus and Tommy Shutt lined up a little wider than usual, and everything was directed at McMillan. There's no question he caught some tackles, and I'm not sure it's schematically the best approach for him, but it's how many starts has the kid had? He's about 19 years old. Those on the boards who were jumping off the Quan bandwagon, I would suggest they stay on board for a little bit longer, because I still think he's the best middle linebacker they've had in there classically for I would have to go back maybe to Laurinaitis. So let's wait it out.
I would go back to Laurinaitis.
Yep. Let's wait it out a little bit. One thing you want to discuss now that we've completed the non-conference schedule, undefeated. Urban Meyer now 42-3 as a Buckeye coach. Decent, I'd say. We're going to give out some awards. Duane and I have not discussed this, so I'm going to take Duane's opinion. Duane, thus far, the non-conference awards ceremony here. Offensive MVP of Ohio State.
I would go Pat Elflein. He's been consistently outstanding. I mean, the guy, you just don't see guards that good. He is exceptional. He's winning battles consistently. He's opening holes. He's not getting beat in pass protection. That's something you always worry about with guards, is they're going to get turned around a little bit easier. That's who I would look at as the one guy who has just stepped up and been outstanding.
For what it's worth, I can promise you there'll be some boarding house knowledge on Pat Elflein coming up later today. Spoke to some people in the last few days who had some interesting stuff to say about him. And you know it's Duane when I ask who the offensive MVP is and I get a guard. That's hard to argue with. Very cool choice. That's one of those things where I'd like to see the coaches' tape and have their grades on them. It'd be very interesting to check out. But there's no question Elflein is the classic, put it this way, one of the reasons Ohio State is a national champion is because the three-star development of guys like Pat Elflein and Darren Lee. I remember when Pat Elflein committed, he was known more as a wrestler. There was no ticker tape parade on the boards. There was no crush. There was more questions about signing Elflein. So one of the reasons I think we should all be so high on Ed Warner is what he's done to develop guys like Pat Elflein, who's gone from a three-star player to a guy who's going to be playing on Sundays and driving a very, very nice car with a multiple-car garage. Okay, defensive MVP of the non-conference schedule.
Adolphus Washington. Adolphus Washington is just, I mean, you just watch one game. You don't have to watch them all four. Just watch one game and see and focus on him and just see how good he is, how difficult a matchup he is. You know that when defensive coordinators sit down and look, offensive coordinators sit down and look at the Buckeye defense, the first thing they look at is, okay, we got to try to block Bosa, and then somebody in that room is going to say, well, what about the guy next to him? He has been just a menace. He's in the backfield. He's chasing people down the field. He's doing it all. He is everything that we hoped he would be, that we thought he would be coming out of high school, just not as a defensive tackle. We thought he was going to be a weak side end. Outstanding. Just and you got to appreciate the off the field. The kid's just a great kid too. So Adolphus Washington, yeah, no doubt in my mind, defensive MVP.
Yeah, it's an easy choice. I will say this: you could probably make an argument the second best player in the team so far has been Von Bell. So I don't want Von to go without kudos. And I want to say this before I heap parade on Adolphus, I'll be honest, he might be my favorite player on the team for the reasons you stated. Gary and Conley, it looks to me like the Western Michigan people looked at the tape and decided we are never going near him. I don't remember him even in the game. He has become Conley Island. It looks like they're going to go after Apple more. They back shoulder faded Apple with their big receiver all game long, and Conley, it looks to me like he may have been the shutdown guy. I said this before. I attended the Hawaii game. I thought he was the best player on the field. Excuse me. But getting back to Adolphus, I was so high on Adolphus when he came here. I got a chance to see him play a little bit in high school. I remember seeing him at the Middletown Awards they do every year when he was a senior. He looked like a man. I had like a 28-inch waist and a beard, which was just ferocious. It's great to see guys really come into their own. I think the play he made last week, getting double-teamed, pushed out of the way to be athletic enough at 295 pounds to reach up and grab that ball with two hands, and that was an easy catch for him. For anybody who hasn't done it, I'd go back and listen to Western Michigan coach P.J. Fleck talk after the game about Adolphus and how he didn't even blame the quarterback. He said, I'd have done the same thing. He couldn't even see him. He's like, guys, on that play, Adolphus was, he didn't use his name, just better than us. And what you said about he's also my favorite interview on the team because there's no BS. Kudos to him. Comes from a single dad household. Heard great things about him, and I love it when guys kind of have it all come together. And I hope he lasts. We've been told he's moving up in the draft. I have to say, I hope he slips a little bit so the Cowboys have a shot at him. Unless Brandon Whedon just runs the team into the ground, but I digress. Biggest surprise on offense thus far?
Oh, I have to look on the negative side of things. We have not been more productive. If I was going to say anything, it would be that we haven't got the ball to Michael Thomas yet, but he would also be the one when we're going to him. He's causing problems. Curtis Samuel's out there too. When we're getting them the ball, they're causing problems. So that would be, the negative is we're not getting them the ball enough. The positive is when they are getting the ball, they're impressive. That's really the big surprise to me. I thought that we'd be running up numbers throwing the ball that would shock everybody, and we haven't yet. And I think we started back on the right track with Western Michigan. Things looked right. Not as much. Did you notice? Not as much looking at the sideline. It just seemed like things we're trying to find our rhythm here. We're getting traction. So, but that would be the surprise on offense. That there isn't anybody that's really standing out. That's really the surprise is that we're not just absolutely steamrolling people.
Yeah, they haven't necessarily picked up where they left off. That's the biggest surprise. I picked for the season, I picked J.T. Barrett to be the Heisman Trophy winner. That's not looking like a good pick, so that's a surprise. But I would agree, I guess the term I would use is inconsistency. But I do think they've happened upon the issue, and that is they need to reestablish the deep passing game and stretch the field out. You've got to have those defensive backs be worried about getting beat over the top. That opens up the jet sweep game because they're a little bit slower to get out there and gives a chance for everyone to get angles. But I do get a real sense, and having been at the game last week, they called a lot more deep passes. I think Cardale's just got to cut it loose. There's no point in having Cardale back there to underthrow passes, I will tell you that. Biggest surprise on defense?
Yeah, your guy, Gary Conley. Last time I saw Gary Conley, he's still looking for the Michigan State receivers. That was just wow. He really didn't need to be out there yet. And now this guy is just, for one thing, when did he blow up? I forgot what number he was off the top of my head. And that's unusual. Usually once I get the number, I'm fine. I'm like, who is number 8? We got a linebacker number 8? Because he was lined up in the slot. We see that with Lee so often. He'll step outside. And I thought, who is number 8? He's just gotten huge. He's the best tackle and cornerback we've seen in I don't know how long. The guy is just phenomenal. Big corner. That's one reason they may not be going that. They didn't want to match up with a guy that big. Apple's good-sized cornerback. Conley's a big dude. He's long-armed. He's a great tackler. He's very aggressive. So he's my big surprise. That was the easiest one to come up with is who's my surprise. Wow, has he been just a pleasant surprise. And I didn't even think about what you're saying is they didn't seem to be going at him. They went at Apple. They had the one elite guy, and that guy really is good. I can't remember his name, but really good football player. And but it
the
seems
receiver,
like you go after the rookie.
Western Michigan? Yeah, the receiver for Western Michigan. Yeah, no doubt. Listen, Western Michigan had good players, man. I was there.
Yeah, they do.
I was impressed with their skill players. And he wasn't even their best receiver. Braverman, I don't remember the guy's name either, the big kid. But Braverman, who beat Marshawn Lattimore down the sideline, and then Tyvis Powell missed that tackle. It was awful. But I was impressed with Western Michigan. I thought their plan was good. I know their coach is drinks a little bit too much coffee, but I was impressed. and I mean, Conley, there's no question. And like I said, I think I said this earlier. I don't want to sound like too much like Jay Billis here, but it showed up at the Hawaii game. I remember this. He's long, man. He is he is not, in the Antoine Winfield mold. He's almost more like the Antonio Cromartie mold, kind of a long athlete. I mean, defensive back wise, I don't want to heap too much pressure on these guys, but I think you may be looking at a few guys to be playing on Sundays on an island, which is pretty cool. Okay. You posted on the board your Final Four. I'm going to read it out here, and you can give your argument as to what you think it will be and why. Ohio State, LSU, Baylor, and UCLA. Go.
Well, I looked at the schedules. I looked at the future schedules. I just believe the Buckeyes are going to win out. I don't think that's going to be a problem. We're seeing good football out of Michigan State and out of Michigan now, but I still think we're going to win out. I went with LSU for one simple reason. We're looking at a once-in-a-generation runner in Leonard Fournette. We haven't seen anything like this at the college level since Adrian Peterson. That's who he reminds me of. They can ride that horse for a long time. The SEC is so tough. Schedules are tough, but I just seen this guy do those things that, you know, you have to try to find a way to defend him, and I don't know if you can completely. I think you got to sell out completely. They don't really have to be a good passing team. They just got to be an average passing team. Quarterback just needs to take care of the ball, get the short stuff off, don't try to do anything big, don't try to make any big plays, and just turn it around and hand it to number 7. I believe that they've got a real opportunity to run the table, just because I'm going with the guy that is the game changer. I went with Baylor. Baylor's playing really well. The schedule is nothing to worry about. The schedule is TCU. Well, Baylor plays some teams. They play Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. I believe it's Texas and Kansas State. Now, any other year, and they play TCU. Any other year, that would be a murderer's row. They'd be lucky to get 4 wins out of that, let alone 5. But we're not looking at a good Texas team. Kansas State's down this year. Oklahoma State not looking like a great football team. So it comes down to TCU and Oklahoma, and I haven't been impressed with Oklahoma. They went way down and had to come back against Tennessee. I'm just not a big Oklahoma supporter. I just don't have a high opinion of them. I think Baylor is a team. And I went with UCLA because of schedule. I watched UCLA Saturday night. They've got a kid named Josh Rosen at quarterback, and he is really, really special football player. And then I looked at the rest of the team, offensively and defensively. We're looking at speed we used to see going to USC. They're at UCLA now. And I believe Moore is a good football coach. So I think they've got a couple of problems. They've got USC at the end of the season. I liked what I saw out of USC. I saw them too Saturday. And Utah to me is the big game. UCLA-Utah is going to probably dictate the Pac-12. Those are the 4 teams I went with. I really think Notre Dame could cause problems. They got to get out of Clemson this weekend, and they've got USC in 2 weeks, and that's about it. The fact that their schedule is going to allow them, and they're ranked high enough, they're a problem, and you have to watch Utah. The other team is Georgia. Georgia is playing really well, and, you know, what we're expecting, if not for this, I would have put Georgia in. Georgia, they're going to do something wrong. They're going to shoot themselves in the foot. Somewhere or another, Georgia's going to mess it up. That's the thing. The way it looks, they've got the best, easiest schedule of the SEC teams. They just really have to they got to beat Alabama. Yeah, that's exactly. They're Georgia. They got to beat Alabama, and then they have to win the championship game, and they may have the most balanced team in the SEC. So, that's the way I'm seeing it right now. Everyone's talking about Ole Miss. I just can't get with Ole Miss. I'm just not impressed with anything with Ole Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss is a prove-it-to-me school. I don't see that happening. I actually kind of agree with your Final Four and the argument you made for it. Certainly there's going to be UCLA is the toughest gig just because of their Pac-12 and LSU. My thing on LSU is this. It's got to be quarterback play. Leonard Fournette's incredible. Any team that once lined up Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, and Jeremy Hill in the backfield, which is, by the way, would win most of your fantasy leagues, and I don't even remember them being talked about as an offense, lets you know they need some improved quarterback play. This is where we want to finish here. I don't know if you guys have seen this on the internet. This is not funny. Someone broke into the backyard or cut open the hole in the fence of the Elliott family, Ezekiel Elliott's family, and stole their dog. This is all over the internet. If you know anything about this, you should let them know. It's really just disgusting that someone would do this. You lose a little face. faith in humanity. It reminds me of my wife is Colombian, and she grew up in the United States, and they were friends with other Colombians, and they had a dog. One day the dog was gone. They were very upset. One of the families had moved back to Colombia, and they received pictures in the mail of their dog from Colombia. Do not steal people's dog. Go on the Internet. If you know anything about this, help out the Elliots. Hopefully by the time this comes out, they will have found the dog. But it's all over the Internet. We wish Stacey Elliott and Ezekiel Elliott and the family, they're in search for their missing dog, Chase. This is a obvious plan.
You know, I've got 3 dogs. I had 4. I'm a dog lover. Dogs are not pets. Dogs are members of the family. So this is as far as I'm concerned, it's kidnapping. Anybody, if you know anything, look at the picture of the dog. If you see any dog like this, just, let somebody know. If it's, help them get back their dog. That's where you steal somebody's dog. That's disgusting.
Seriously, and let's not forget, the Elliots moved here from St. Louis to support their kid, and the community responds by stealing their dog. That's not going to work. Let's get that dog back to the Elliots. We thank Duane for joining us. Let's everyone have a great day, and go check on your dogs.